hello. Can you hear a lot of background noise right now, Dusty?
No, not right now. I don't think so.
Nothing? Okay. Yeah, I just got my heater on. I'm freezing. They turn the AC's on right now for some reason. And it's
Oh,
like,
it's okay. Cold weather is good for you.
maybe.
You ask Wim Hof. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wim Hof, but he has done a lot of science-based stuff about how awesome cold is for the body.
Oh, interesting.
I could go much deeper into it, but he's got like 23 world records, I think, and all of them involve extreme cold.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is Brittany on? Yeah, Brittany's on. Hey, Britt. Yeah, he just showed up, so we got it there now. So, um, David is there,
I don't see him.
checking the audio. So, great. All right, let's see where he populates up. All right, I think we got it. All right, great. I see David there, so I think that gives us the full contingent of people. So, let's
Hello,
see.
David.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time today to come speak with us.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. So yes, I wanted to introduce you to my cohort, to the Platoon cohort. So David Pope is the area vice president and director for Verizon. He is former Air Force, and we had a great meeting with him a few weeks ago, and he agreed, happily agreed to come and speak to us. And with further ado, Mr. David Pope, it's all on you now.
No, hey everybody. Thank you for joining. Just wanted to have a conversation about really, what's out there in the workplace and kind of that transition from where you're at today and where you want to go, and really just focusing on outcomes, based on.
Yep.
Did we lose him?
Yep, we lost David.
Oh,
There you
wow.
go. There you go. Shortest lunch and learn on the outcomes, and you'll nail it. So.
Oh, he'll call
Was
back
he on a
in.
Verizon telephone?
Yeah, I think he was. No.
Mobile, do you remember the story? The T-Mobile one. That's funny. All right, Chris is here. That's
Admit
great.
her. Got her in. He's gonna call back.
Yeah, I wonder how long it's going to take him to notice, though.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And he's driving. That's a good point. Wow, I didn't think about that. So.
Yeah, he's driving.
That picture there, but I think whatever picture I put there, everybody's gonna see. So I got to make sure it's the right one. Huh? What about this one?
No, nothing with Marine Corps.
Perfect.
I'm kidding.
I like it.
But what it looks like you were a supply clerk for the Marine Corps.
No, that's why then I saw it. I originally bought one.
I'll call his assistant.
I'm just gonna return it. That's what I did.
I'll take the supply clerk sign because that's exactly what I do in the Marine Corps.
Oh. All right. Well, you know what? If you graduate, this is yours.
Boom! There you go, Dusty.
Now you got to make it through the next cohort too, so that's not any short feat. So, well, we got everybody except our lunch and learn person. Kat, you want to try to reach out to him, let him know that he died?
Yes, I'm gonna reach out to his executive assistant because I don't have his number, so I'm gonna call her.
Okay, that's good. So our lunch and learn speaker got out 2 sentences, Chris, and then he was the exact opposite of a Raleigh talk. He was in and out.
I missed it all in an eye blink.
You missed it all. It's easy to do. Although last night when I was here working late, I think you guys saw some late emails. So I was watching, part of that was watching Son of a Woman, Al Pacino, one of the best Hooah! He doesn't like to be called Charlie. Great movie. I was checking out the DVD player to see if it actually worked. Who's got a baby there today? I hear a baby. Is that Dusty? No? Carlos?
Not this time, Carlos, I think.
What is Carlos? What?
Carlos says,
What exactly is going on over there in the Garcia households? I hear screaming.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to improve morale.
I'm not yelling at anybody.
Yeah. Beatings will continue until morale.
Oh, my nephew's over there. He has a personal tutor because he's autistic, so he's learning how to talk. But yeah, no, I forgot he was even there. Yeah, so there's two living rooms in here, so they made one into like a little school for him.
Oh, that's cool.
So the city or the county sends somebody to train him while his little sister goes to school.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you said screaming. Like, who's screaming? I ain't yelling at nobody. I mean, I'll yell at everybody if y'all like me to.
Brittany brought up a good point. We are still on Facebook Live right now and have been for the entirety of
I
that.
just realized that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oops, well, there you go.
Behind the curtain here. Like, they're getting to see who the wizard is now.
Yeah, they're like, what happened? That's. Did I say anything really inappropriate? Hopefully
No,
not.
not really.
No, not really.
I mean, I could be your guys' lunch and learn if you like. I mean, I could tell you about my stories on recruiting duty.
Yeah.
You know,
we might have.
if you would like.
Yeah, we'll give it a couple minutes. No, we're good. Thanks. Unless you guys want to listen to stories about me back in the Marine Corps in 1840.
So his internet went out, so he's resetting right now.
Okay.
Nice.
His internet went out. Well,
Yeah.
if you join live on Facebook, you're here live with Sales Platoon. You got.
Okay, he's back. Okay, cool.
He's back. I don't see him.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ed is wandering around the empty apartment with disappearing on and off screen.
I can tell you this much: prospecting and selling when I was a staff sergeant has helped me in my career in the Marine Corps. How to approach people better. Taught me how to talk to people, get things that my unit needs.
Hey, Carlos, I actually had a commander come in, and I told Kat this because she did some recruiting, to talk to my sales team, because when they complained how hard it was for them to sell, I brought in a commander of a local recruiting station, and I said, here's a day in the life of a military recruiter, including when they got up at dawn to start with PT and work way until the evening, and they were selling a lifestyle, not just a product or service, and sometimes they had to not only get that person to commit, but then their parents or their spouse or their friends. And let me tell you, you should tell everyone you did that, because I don't think there's a harder sale than doing that kind of work. So
yeah. It looks like David's back on.
Christine, you know what? I think I woke up thinking about who I'm going to put in the Marine Corps today. And I went to sleep like, who am I going to find tomorrow to put in the Marine Corps tomorrow? And it was like a cycle every day.
Hello again, David.
Hey, sorry about that. Just I have people working on my house, and they decided to cut my power, so I had to reset and rejoin. So not good timing there, but
no worries.
Welcome back.
I thought, wow, that was like the most brief, succinct lunch and learn ever. It was like, hey guys, when you go out in the audience and you're going to be presenting, like, remember. And then it was like, okay, like one tidbit, and we were done. So. Good stuff. I was like, all right.
Let's reset a little bit and create space here. But first off, thank you for your patience, and I apologize for that delay. I'll go ahead and actually introduce myself just to start over here. So my name is David Pope. I am the Area Vice President and Managing Director for Global Enterprise. I am responsible for our entire West Coast for any customers who we support in the enterprise space, probably within the Fortune 250. So as long as they have assets and are headquartered in the U.S., any customer who's global in size, I operate about a $500 million business in annual sales revenue, both on the wireline, traditional wireline, and mobility side as well. And so very much appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today and really discuss, what was my journey, but even potentially answer any questions you all might have, as far as, how that might translate to where you're at and where you want to go. So just to kind of kick things off, I will tell you, first and foremost, thank you very much for your service and dedication and sacrifice, for this country and our freedoms. I think that there are only two buckets of people who understand, the level of sacrifice needed to really help us have the blessings of our freedoms and democracy. And that's people who have served, and I would say that's the family members that travel with us, in our tenure and our journey, and have to make those sacrifices when we're away and they don't know when we're coming home. So just want to say thank you to you and your families there. You all have chosen a fantastic career. I tell this to a lot of people that I mentor, as well as teams that I lead. Outside of being a professional athlete, maybe outside of being a celebrity, I don't believe there is a better profession than that of being a salesperson. You get to create your own destiny. What you put in is what you get out. And to tell you the truth, the two things that I was most fearful of doing in my life when I was a child, from I would say elementary school to high school, were the military and sales, coincidentally. And here I am. I grew up in an era where my parents were watching Platoon. I was probably at a well too young of an age, and I read Death of a Salesman, and I didn't want to become Willie Loman. But I will tell you that with the right mindset, with the right tools and high return practices, you can really create a fantastic career for yourself, and really methodically, accelerate through that and really make a good living for you and your family. And so, that's really what I set out to do. I can tell you, from a career standpoint, I kind of landed in sales, to be honest with you. When I got out of the military, I had all this training. I had just served 3 tours in Afghanistan, and I was really trying to figure out what was next for me, and was able to parlay my experience, believe it or not, into a corporate security job, doing investigations, asset protection, and for a private firm that actually supported and had contracts for a company called Marshall Fields, which was owned by Target Corporation and then became Macy's. And so, believe it or not, what I recognized in that role was, you had to be deliberate, not only in success in organization, but you also had to be deliberate in creating your personal brand. And what I recognized in that role was, how you really delivering on outcomes. Everything that I did was delivering on outcomes, whether it be reducing shrink, increasing the level of investigations, stopping loss. And what I also recognized as a leader was that I was always selling, right? I was selling to get a budget. I was selling to get a result that I wanted. And so, really I had to leverage the skills that the military taught me. I like to divide skill sets into 2 buckets. And I really want you guys to think about these 2 things, right? There's tangibles and there's intangibles. And tangibles are things that we can teach you in the sales world. And I hope even outside of this lunch and learn, would be more than happy to walk through this at a deeper level for you all and continue to help, develop you on your journey. But tangibles are things we can teach you. I can teach you how to build relationships from the janitor to the C-suites and everything in between. I can teach you technical acumen. We can teach you business acumen, and we can teach you systems and process. I can even teach you how to sell, right? What I can't teach you is intangibles, right? And those are things that you bring to the table inherently from either your upbringing, from your parents, and certainly, most certainly from the military. And I want you all to really center on those intangibles. And so what are intangibles, right? It's work ethic, it's integrity, right? It's bringing excellence in everything that you do, resiliency, perseverance. I can't teach you those things. And the challenging part about transitioning those intangibles is really deliberately recognizing what those intangibles are and being able to communicate how you've applied those to a process, right? And what was the outcome as a result, right? And so I want you all to always think about, being deliberate. What are some of the things that you did in the military? How did you approach it? And really that was my transition that I made when I really started seeing success, was being able to deliberately understand what I brought to the table from an intangible standpoint and how I learned tangibles along the way it's kind of like fake it till you make it. You carry your intangibles, you take some of the things that you do very well, and you learn those tangibles and you start to scale those. And so that was really the baseline for that strong transition, was really understanding, what I brought to the table, and then creating a development plan on the things that I needed to learn based on the tangibles. And there's other things I learned in the military, right? And depending on your background, there's you all might have different things that are actual skill sets. For me, just for a little bit of my military background, I was actually in the United States Air Force, but I did anything but the Air Force role. And so some of you I see wearing Marine t-shirts. I'm sure some of you represent the Army. And look, I love the Air Force and the mission of air power. But when you generally hear Air Force, you think, hey, air-conditioned tents, you guys have single rooms, more square footage. And hey, I think you guys are the ones who push the paperwork to have me land where I go. But I was in the Air Force prior to 9/11. And if you look at the gap between the Gulf War and 9/11, what happened in the Gulf War? The Air Force really took air power to the next level, and we bombed Baghdad, right? And as a result of that, right, of 2 or 3 weeks of bombing, the Marines, the Army, the quote unquote real military, as you guys probably like to call it, were able to go in and take over Iraq, or I would say Baghdad, the capital, and be able to do so when people were handing over the rifles. Limited casualties, made the mission easier, logistics were a lot easier. And so from that point forward, the Air Force could no longer rely on the Army and the Marines to really protect them moving forward, right? They didn't have the manpower to scale that. So the Air Force had to create their own military from within. So for some of you who are not familiar with that, they had to really scale up what they call the security forces. And so my background, believe it or not, prior to being in the military, which I joined at 17, was I actually left home at 15. My father had a heavy hand. He liked to drink. And I think we all land in the military for different reasons. Family tradition, we want a better life, education. And I think we all come to the same crossroad as I look across the screen here as, hey, we want to leverage the military. Use is probably a horrible word, leverage the military to do something better, right? If we want to change the trajectory of our families, create a better future, a better baseline for the next generation of our families, the military really catapults us into that. And that's how I view the military. And so I came in at a young age of 17, thinking I'm going to be an attorney. I want to get my law degree. And they said, hey, why don't you get a law enforcement background? Hey, no problem. I'll be a paralegal in 6 months. Well, that's not the case, right? And so, but the good news was from that point forward, once I got, ongoing, I did everything from what we call Elite Guard, which was the Secret Service for Air Force, for generals and colonels. I then parlayed that into something called Raven, which was protecting them and being their air marshals, which pre 9/11 also parlayed into going Army Ranger School, which is pretty cool because the Air Force didn't have the resources to train us. And then from there, I actually went to Fort Dix for Army Sniper School. And then boom, 9/11 hit. And I'm like, hey, wait a second, I have these skills. I'm an Air Force, desk jockey. And all of a sudden, I'm doing these things which are cool as far as my resume bullets, but now you actually want me to apply them. And so from there, I did 3 tours in Afghanistan, as I stated earlier, and really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. I would say good or bad, good and or bad. But what I know is I'm very proud to be able to service the Marines and the Army in that tenure. But what I learned in a lot of those trainings, there's a lot in between. I learned the art of conversation. I learned how to make decisions and critical thinking. I learned chain of command, which is absolutely important, as far as decision making at every single level, and even being able to understand, hey, why is this decision in my hands versus my leaders, and why is it important to go to my leaders and therefore their leaders, and then really understanding structure, right? And then there's parallels between the military and the public sector, and really understanding some of those parallels and where you play in a deliberate way, you start to be able to transition and really build your baseline for your skill set. So want to give a little bit of background as far as me, where I went. When I got out of the military, like I said, I got into the security realm, and I had the opportunity to be a asset protection director in my mid to late 20s for a company in California, which was Pac Bell at the time, the AT&T purchased. And they said, hey, we want you to investigate salespeople, so you have to go be in the field for a year. And we'll set up some interviews for you. You have to get these jobs on your own. And once you're in, you'll do this for a year and you'll truly understand the ins and outs of the sales organization. And believe it or not, after that year, when it was time for me to return and do my director job, I said, hey, is it okay if I stay and do sales? I really enjoyed my day being different, controlling my calendar, being able to deliver outcomes for my customers, and do something mutually beneficial and grow AT&T at the time, and also grow our customers and deliver on that promise and be a true partner. And did that for about 8 years and then came over to Verizon. So I've done a bevy of different roles, from solution architect and engineering to acquisition sales, as far as application sales. I've ran businesses where I've managed revenue. I've done pursuit, and then I've grown in teams. My background, all in all, in my 18-year sales career, is really taking struggling organizations and transforming them into being the #1 organizations in the company. And that's been my background. And so there's been a deliberate process, I will tell you, when you think about sales, as far as, taking your intangibles, once again, just to kind of connect the dots there, and how do you start to leverage the skill sets that you need. And so, that's really where I've made a career, is developing talent at every level, from frontline sales to the future leaders of our business, and now even developing executives into their first level executive roles within Verizon. And so that's been my background. That's kind of the transitions that I've made. It's not been easy, but I will tell you, the biggest statement I will tell you is always challenge yourself. And you've learned this in the military, and the statement I would make is be comfortable being uncomfortable. You can't grow if you're not stretching yourself. And so, wherever you're at today isn't going to get you where you want to go to tomorrow. So always have that growth mindset and challenge yourself to say, and have goals, and really be honest with yourself. Say, hey, where am I at? What do I do great? What are my strengths? What are my opportunities, and the opportunities that are necessary to be successful and get me to the next level? And always consistently have that plan as far as your skill set. And another avenue or level of this would be your ecosystem of success. And you'll hear me talk about that quite a bit. I would challenge each of you, in your private time, to sit down and take a whiteboard or a white paper. You can do this on email or a Word document. You can do it on paper, and just really architect who are the people in your ecosystem that are most necessary for your success on what you're doing today and where you want to go. And really architect that entire ecosystem outside of yourself, because it really does take a village, not only in the job that you're doing, which I call your day job, but also in your career. And architect that ecosystem as far as your day job, as well in parallel as your career, and make sure that you're nurturing those relationships. One thing that is different than the military, I would even say in the public sector, some people in the past have considered taboo. In your ecosystem, build personal professional relationships. And that has been a key foundation of my success, both as a salesperson, but also as a leader. And so what is a personal professional relationship? Think about in your world today, in the jobs that you've done, in the training or development that you're doing today, how many favors do you need of others to help you accelerate? We live in an escalation-centric world at the end of the day, right? Everyone wants immediate ROI, from your customers to you, to others who are asking help of you, people on your team, and everyone's like, hey, what I am asking for, I need yesterday. And so there's always this sense of urgency. And so if you think about the world being an escalation-centric environment and everyone needing immediacy, think about how you can separate yourself instead of just getting in line and being the next person asking for a favor, right? Think about that from a sales perspective, from a business perspective, from a personal and professional standpoint, right? You're always going to be needing from your ecosystem, and they're going to then, ask of you, and it's going to be a give and take relationship. And so think about that ecosystem, architect those people in your life, and then ask yourself in those worlds, hey, do I know what makes them tick? Or do I just know what I need from them as far as what's in it for me, right? Or, hey, this task or outcome that I'm trying to achieve in the short term, intermediate, and long term. Have you nurtured those relationships? Do you know who their children are? Do you know what their names are? Do you know what their last vacation was? Do you know what motivates them? Do you know what trials and tribulations maybe that they're going in that moment? Do you know their background? And you can go as surface or as deep as is necessary. But if the answer is you don't have the answers to those questions in large part of your ecosystem, or all, which most people probably don't because they're not doing this deliberately, you're not really crafting the village, or you're not architecting the village around you necessary to support you for your success. And also from a personal branding standpoint, you're actually asking for more than you're giving, right? You have to find that balance and do that deliberately. And so that's just some of the advices that I will give you, right? Understand your intangibles, understand the tangibles that you have, what are your gaps, and then also, make sure you're architecting that ecosystem and build meaningful personal and professional relationships. And the last thing I will tell you on personal and professional relationships is I'll give you an analogy right now, right? You all don't know me very well, right? And if I just came up to you and said, hey, I need to borrow $5,000, rent is due. It's been tough, with the pandemic. I'm not really working as many hours as I need to, but I'm going to get back on this horse. I just need $5,000 and I'll get it back to you, let's just say at the end of the year. Most of you would be like, hey, wait a second. Who are you? You need $5,000. Why would I give that to you? But if you're a father or your mother, your best friend that you've known since you were 8 years old, or a colleague in the military who, you built strong, deep relationship is just getting out and needs the help, right? What is the likelihood you would help someone who is in your inner circle versus this stranger, right? And that's an extreme example. I just want to give you an extreme example to give you kind of an aha moment to say, hey, how many times am I not nurturing and building relationships? I'm asking of others, and I'm not really investing in my ecosystem. And you could take that to scale, and I'll leave you with that as far as that ecosystem. If anyone wants to ever sit down, I actually can spend 30 or 45 minutes with each of you if you like, and really architect what the ecosystem of success is, and really put pen to paper, and really help you navigate what the next 12 to 18 months of your micro level career is, as well as in parallel macro level what the next 3 to 5 years could look like. But that's an exercise I would encourage all of you to go through either on your own or with someone else who can help you walk through it. I said a lot there. Jumping in from call to call here, guys, and I apologize. Covered a lot from my background to my transition, as well as kind of the baseline or foundations or the principles of what has driven my success. Just want to open up the call to see if there's any questions or feedback. Can have an open dialogue or conversation.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, David. First of all, a quick round for David for coming out. You guys can hear me okay? I know I have some issues. Okay, good to go. David, I mean, brothers from another mother. I mean, so many things for us to talk about, man. Thank you for sharing so honestly and with such integrity around your drives, passions, ambitions, the tangibles, the intangibles. I mean, I'll do a quick pop quiz here. Nobody buys what a product does, they buy, guys.
What a product does for
What
them.
about the
There you go. We beat that, we punish that into them the whole time, but they get it. And what you were saying was perfect, and it's as true in personal relationships as anything else. The what's in it for me, but the process, the rest of it, I loved it, man. The ecosystem of success, what a beautiful thing. You have to architect that. We try to do that here. I think you just put different vernacular on it, but it's same backgrounds. I know that originally we had this schedule from 12 to 12:30, and then I think we're going to jump on a call at 12:30 and continue talking. I don't know if you have a few minutes now where you can just keep talking with these guys and take some questions, or do you have a hard stop and need to get
I don't have a hard stop. I can extend even up to 15 minutes if you guys like. It's really up to you. I know we had some power outage issue earlier, and I want to honor everyone's time though, based on what you might have next. But if you all are amenable to it, it can definitely field some questions and dig in a little
Yeah,
deeper.
I think that's where we used to get a lot out of this. I mean, you had a ton of stuff that you threw at them. I mean, it was like rapid fire bits. I was doing my best to write, and it was like I couldn't keep it all down. But I'd love to hear about that. I think afterwards, I don't know if it was on your calendar. Kat had said we may continue the conversation after this call, so just go bleed right into us. So if that time still works for you, then let's
Yeah,
get
what time would that be? Just real
Yep.
quick.
Normally been 12:30 to like 1 o'clock. So
Is
or
that
one
is that 12:30 Pacific? I'm sorry,
Central. So
Central. So 10:30. That's right. Well, that would be right now,
now?
correct?
Yes.
that would be right now originally, but I'm happy to give up that time, at least half of it, and let's get some questions out of the way.
I'm open to either one. My schedule is flexible. This is a priority for me. I have a big passion for helping people, especially with military background, make this huge transition. So, Raleigh, I'll
Yeah.
leave that up to you.
No, let's do it. Let's run with what we have right now. This is the whole reason I started Sales Platoon, and the whole reason we started bringing in Lunch and Learn speakers is it's you got. I mean, it's hard for me sometimes to remember. I got out in 2001, 2002, and it was a long time when I made the transition, and I've been 20 years now in the civilian workforce, building my way up like you did. And it's like, but remembering what it was like coming off active duty, they're navigating the streets of Paris with a map of Chicago. Like they're, 3 years out in a sales career, you might as well ask like a high schooler what it's going to look like to be 3 years in the infantry. It's like, it's going to look like what it looks like. I don't know what it's going to look like for you. I know what it'll look like for, our experience. So at any rate, that's the Q&A is the biggest part of this. And so let's go ahead and open it up for that. David is a wealth of information, very successful. $500 million. That's $500 million of Austin Powers quote there of experience. So guys, let's open it up. Show of hands, and then we'll unmute you in the order you go in, and we'll go from there. So the floor is open. Oh, don't disappoint me today, guys. Don't do this.
Don't be shy, guys. I don't bite.
Shy. We got all kinds of people. Who we got? All right, Carlos, there you go.
Hey, David, thank you for being here with us. I noticed that on your LinkedIn, you used to be at AT&T. What made you want to go to Verizon? What was the?
So I gotta be careful not to disparage the competition.
Especially
so go ahead. Sorry.
Our streaming is on our Facebook channel, so make sure you know.
Hey, look, that's a safe zone, right? I would say, look, I love AT&T for giving me the opportunity to cut my teeth. They gave me the opportunity to build my skill set from small, medium business all the way to global enterprise. But I will tell you, there's some facts. Even if you look at the news today, just based on outcome, in the last 2 years, 3 years, AT&T has taken a different turn from a culture standpoint and really moved away from their core competencies. I think both Verizon and AT&T had a desire to not be traditional telcos, is right. And what kept the lights on the last 100 years, since Alexander Graham Bell to now, right, is not going to keep the lights on in the next 10 years. Technology is changing at a rapid pace, and there's a huge transformation going on. And I will tell you that in order to meet that transformation, decisions had to be made from a culture standpoint and where you invest your assets, even going back to 10 years ago. And the culture, I would say, at AT&T and Verizon is very different, not only in, I would say, the culture of people and leadership, but also in that investment in those assets. And just going to the facts on those assets, AT&T has a history with their previous CEO, Randall Stevenson, to do more traditional conservative investments and try to take those investments like oranges and squeeze the pulp out of them. Examples I would say would be DirecTV, right? They purchased a platform that had a box with 300 plus channels, right? And that was probably the last 20 years, and spent, $4 billion on that, and said, hey, how do I get as many people to continue to buy a box with 400 channels? And as you guys all know, right, we live in a consumption-based world, and Netflix really was the transition of that. And so, from that year that they purchased that to every year after, it's actually been a bleeding asset, and now they're selling it at about a $2.7 billion loss. That's just one example. They got into Warner Media. And the crossroad was, if you're going to be more than a telco, what are the technologies you're going to invest in? Is it going to be more of your core competency as far as delivering on systems integration, delivering on network, and then how do you monetize that network different through data analytics? So are you going to optimize content? Are you going to create content? Well, AT&T went down the create content path for the last few years, inclusive of buying Warner Media. They bought that for $190 billion. And $190 billion is the largest acquisition in the last 50 years, well, ever, right? Even with, so you can't have $190 billion of debt and focus on core competencies. And so they made that decision, where Verizon said, you know what, let's stay on our core competencies. Let's start building out true 5G. 5G is going to change and revolutionize the world. And we're going to leverage that asset and find different ways to monetize it than just provide, bandwidth or access. And so we've invested in cybersecurity. Verizon is the largest cybersecurity firm in the world in volume, as well as in response retainers and investigations. We are also the only company in the upper right Magic Gartner Quadrant for global network, global cybersecurity, unified communications, professional services. And so when you look at those assets, and managed services, I'm sorry, and you look at those assets, right, and the ability to own the network and have 90% of the world's internet traverse your network, well, what can you do that those analytics to monetize that? Well, there's margin in that. And so to me, that was a more compelling story. I didn't want to be with a company that was going to create content, right? Or I would have started my sales career working at Warner Media or Disney. And so I thought I really want to be a business partner and be able to leverage assets and create an ecosystem. We talk about the ecosystem of success. Verizon's culture is, if we can't bring you best in class and own that, we're going to bring you best in class in partnerships. And so that really resonated with me from an asset standpoint, just to deal with facts. And then kind of high level, without going into too much weeds, the culture of Verizon, if we make a promise, we are going to follow through on that commitment. And to me, that wasn't always consistent with where I worked previously. And so I just wanted to take who I was and what my core values were and align that with a company whose core values aligned, with what I wanted to be and where I wanted to go. So I hope that answers that question.
Great, thanks. I think you have Thomas Trzajeski up next. So,
Hey, David, former Air Force here. Well, about to be former Air Force, so heck yeah, air power above the rest. So what do sales roles look like at Verizon? I've talked to different companies and they have some different titles, and there's some nuance there as far as like, if you're both account manager or BDR, account executive, and SDR, are they very defined roles? Are they more nebulous? And then kind of can you talk a bit more about that?
They're very defined. Well, they can be both. So I gotta make sure. And so I will tell you, so the good news is Verizon likes to take care of their people, right? We're actually, in the last 5 years, I think 3 years, all 5 years, we were in the top 10 for veteran employment and support of the military, our military friendly companies. And I think we were number 1, 3 out of the last 5 years. And so I'll put that note out there first and foremost. But I will tell you, from a sales perspective, to answer your question directly, it depends on the market. And so, and I will tell you, there is no chronological order in which you have to do this, but traditionally, right, there's small business, there's mid markets, right, from an enterprise standpoint, and then you have global enterprise, which is even branched out into, not to be too complex, into 4 markets. You have your acquisition, global enterprise, which is like your top 200 companies. You have, or probably like 300, 350. You have like the principal space, which is like wireline, wireless, and then you have your premier and signature. And the signature is like your top 26 accounts. Hey, you spend $50 million a year per account. Your Apples, your Amazons, you think big deals, but you kind of sink and swim, your top 50 accounts. Premier is that next layer down, is your top, let's say 100, your American Airlines, your Delta, your Nordstroms, your Target. The principal space is that really that sweet spot where you have the most opportunity for growth, and you have some large companies like Live Nation, for example. They're not a Fortune 50 company, but brand name, Ticketmaster, right? You have all the casinos in Vegas all sitting there. The Hiltons actually sitting there, and so you have that sweet spot, and then you also have the most wireless revenue. But as far as roles, I will tell you that it's more around. As far as hiring leaders, they would probably tell you they're looking for tangibles around your technical acumen, right? Being able to understand businesses and being able to research. And so I know that's kind of more of not a direct answer, but learn how to read a 10K. Most of the companies we sell to are publicly traded companies. If you can understand the hierarchy of a company and the inner workings, there's like 2 degrees of separation, whether you're working Apple or you're working American Airlines or you're working Hilton. Now, there's certain industry things that you want to become an expert in if you choose an industry, but from a business perspective, right, you're sitting down with a business owner. If you understand their 10K, where they came up to this point and where they want to go, right, you can actually be pretty dangerous in a conversation if you ask the right questions, right, and understand their outcomes they're trying to achieve. Now, specific to Verizon, keep in mind, we consider ourselves business consultants now, right? We're not just slinging telco circuits and access. And so really elevating your business acumen, right, is going to be a key aspect to your success. And you can actually do that and learn technical acumen along the way. But think bigger picture, right? Think, how do I deliver on business outcomes? If you want to sell technology, no different than selling vacuum cleaners, no different than selling, applications, software, selling golf clubs, right? You need to know your audience. And so if you look at large enterprise, right, your CEO they want to do three things, right? They want to deliver on the needs of the business, right? They want to transform the business, right? And what does technology do to support that? And then they want to do cost efficiencies, especially because of the pandemic. So understanding the needs of their business is going to be key. Where are they at and where they want to go? How does technology support that vision? So how can you accelerate, right, that or make that better and more efficient? Transformation. What's the investment they're making in transformation? Where do they want to go in transformation? Right. And is there alignment that Verizon has in delivering that either indirectly or directly, right, as a systems integrator? And then cost efficiency. Working for a large company like Verizon, right? I want to get you excited about that type of opportunity because Verizon gets you a seat at the table. Everyone wants to say, hey, what's Verizon doing? Because they've invested in all those things I spoke about earlier. Once you get that seat at the table, it's incumbent on you to leverage that seat on what you're going to do with it. But from a cost efficiency standpoint, most of the customers I sit with, and I've had the opportunity to sit in the Fortune 1 all the way to the Fortune 50, probably about 60%. I've been able to sit in a CIO summit the last 20 years and listen to them as far as what's important to them. And right now, most relevant is how do I go from 100 suppliers and vendors, right, which is over complex to do business with, and how do I get down to a top 15 or 20 partnership? Well, when you think about technology and our core assets, I talk about the Gartner Magic Quadrant and all the things Verizon does well, right? We can sell CPE. I can sell managed services. I can do professional services and orchestrate. I can sell network, primary, secondary, tertiary. I can sell SD-WAN. And I'm probably going a little bit too technical here at a surface level even, but Verizon has the opportunity to really be a top 20 partner for just about any company in the Fortune 350. And you can even scale that down to small, medium business. And that just becomes relative, right? And you can scale to that level too. So the skills you need are business acumen, right? When I hate to use the word fake it till you make it, but you bring intangibles to the table. If you can really up your business skills, how to ask the right questions, by coming into Verizon, we'll educate you on technology. We'll educate you on all those different components that I talked about. So for you right now, really, if I can encourage anyone right now to make an investment, I think it's $10 a month. Go invest in the Wall Street Journal, have it delivered to your house, read the front page every single day. Current events, what's going on in the world, those have synergies with any customer that you're sitting down with. What's the biggest thing going on in the world right now? Well, it's not a safe place from a security standpoint, cybersecurity, right? We got pipelines being closed down, energy, food, company brands losing billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, having to pay ransomware, right? And so all that's relevant. Think about how you parlay that in a conversation with American Airlines, right? Who has all of our information sitting in their databases. And so, or they have technology that an airplane might not be able to get fuel or not be able to land because someone takes over a tower, right? So think about how you can parlay it in the conversation as far as what's next. And so I just kind of spitball in here, but those are the things I want you to think about is your business acumen. And if you have business acumen, whether it's small, medium, global enterprise, you can position yourself with your intangibles and the sky's the limit.
All right. That's a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like I love having you here, David, because I swear these guys are smiling because it's like I could just disappear and you could be given the class right now. So that's the stuff that we're teaching. It's the same kind of ideas, the reinforcement. And so I promise, guys, I did not pepper David ahead of time and say, hey,
We have
say
not, actually.
just that when you have people that came up the way he and I did, which is through sales to management to director, you work your way up, you have all the scars to show it. And
Yes.
so you're not a person who is using drones to find the landmines. You've actually walked the field, you have the ground truth, and you're trying to share that back. And so again, what David's saying is, have an open mind, go there. You already have the intangibles, apply them, don't be afraid to ask the questions. There's all types, trying to envision a career in sales. I would have never known I was going to be SVP of sales at a company or director of sales selling synthetic DNA in Latin America to laboratory scientists. I had no idea it even existed, but it is such a pathway. It's why I'm so passionate about it. I always say, and David will get a chance to catch up after this, but I always say, look, the Marine Corps saved my life. You know, I was 15 when I left home. I was headed for a life of petty crime and misdemeanors. I ended up in the foster care system, thank God, because I had some good angels in my life that tried to take care of me. But by the time I got to the Marine Corps, I like to joke that it was either the Marine Corps or the monastery. And my grandmother said the priest didn't want me in her sweet Southern accent. So Marine Corps saved my life, for sure, and transformed me into cut off all the stuff that I'd accumulated over the years. And I love your story with that. The bigger side was then coming out, I had a whole skill set that I didn't know which pieces translated and which didn't. It's almost like I know Spanish and I'm trying to learn French. There's enough similarity
There
that
is.
I kind of get it, but it really can confuse you because certain things just don't translate. And you just almost have to like forget that you know the other language for just a little bit and just go immerse yourself just like you did in boot camp, and then you pull out, and that's the end of the day. So, but you know, sales, while the Marine Corps saved my life, sales transformed my family generationally. You know, in one generation had the ability for me to create a different life for my family than I had, and I think that's what you were sharing about. You know, let's take one more question. If anybody has something pressing for David, sorry, David, I just got excited listening to you. I'm like, man, I got my notes are full, and I'm like, this guy is like, you know, if you don't want to be at Verizon, you can come be an instructor at Sales Platoon for sure, you know. So, anybody else, anything for David today? Or David, you got any other thoughts on that from what I just said?
You know, I do. If actually, is there any questions first before I give you some kind of last kind of tools or thoughts
Yeah.
before the next time? Hopefully, we meet soon. Okay. Two things. Look, even when I mentor others, you know, and believe me, you guys will serve a lot of different roles. You'll be a mentee, you'll be a mentor, you'll be a coach, you'll be a leader, you know, all of the above. And so I want you to know that do things the right way. Sales is a competitive environment, but it needs to be healthy competition. And the only thing that I ever would challenge you to do, have this one guiding principle. Um, or not one, but it's one of the most important guiding principles. Just pay it forward. Don't be afraid to share what you have, what you've learned, and pay that forward to anyone who's willing to ask, or anyone that you've identified as having the opportunity to thrive, and is worth your investment. Don't ever be that person where someone said, well, this person and I were at the same level. We want that next same job. And he's asking me for assistance. Well, I don't want to give him the magic, you know, secret sauce. Don't be that person, and really try to hold yourself accountable to that. Just always pay it forward. I truly believe in karma, and believe it or not, I've learned this lesson over the last 10 years, and I literally live by it, you know, swear up and down. You can give everyone everything that you do, the entire playbook, but it doesn't mean they can't execute on that playbook the same as you. And so I have that much confidence just based on, you know, my experience that, look, I can give everyone that playbook. One, everyone's going to elevate based on that process. But at the end of the day, it's incumbent on me to continue to evolve and execute. And so just try to live by that same, you know, those same rules. Just don't be that person that's hoarding, or you think you have that magic sauce. Like, we're all special in our own way. But at the same time, like, just make sure you're always paying that forward. And if you do the right things, good things will come to you as a result. So that's one. And then the last one is gratitude. Um, we live in a world where it's easy to get sucked into negativity. And, you know, you think about what your mindset was 18 months ago during the pandemic, or when you first got out and maybe you couldn't find, you know, Sales Platoon, or before that, right? You think about some of the trials and tribulations you've been through when you looked at your bank account and said, why me? No one else knows those circumstances but you. And so always try to start your day off with gratitude, and really start to wire your brain on what you're blessed with and what you're grateful for, and the glass being half full versus half empty. And if you do that, the impact it will have on you and the others around you, from your customers to your peers to those you'll lead in the future, it will really make a difference. Because what you'll find is, if you rewire yourself as far as gratitude, you'll start your day in such a pleasant way. You'll show up in a more meaningful way. You'll show up more positive. You'll show up more inspirational, and you know, you'll learn to be able to compartmentalize what's going on and all these other things, and you'll be able to live in that moment and show up the way that you want, right? Which I call above the line. And so anyways, just want to leave you with that. And a tool that I use, I would encourage you guys to do this. Do it for 30 days. Go get yourself a notebook or a journal and keep that journal precious. And every morning, find a place in your house. If you get up at 8, if you get up at 7, you get up at 5 in the morning, grab an extra 15 minutes in your schedule and sit down in a place that you find peaceful, and really write 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for. It can be as complex as you want, or it can be as simple as, I'm grateful for being able to look at the sunrise right now, right? Or even think about the last 24 hours and what are you grateful for? And we have a lot of stuff going on in our lives. We all wear a lot of different hats. And I've found, since I've been doing that for the last 6 years, that whatever's going on, even if my wife is mad at me, right? Or, I'm traveling on the road and whatever's going on in the complexity. Hey, I missed my son's baseball game because I missed my flight. By having that gratitude journal in the morning and writing the things that I am grateful for every single morning, it really allows me to reset every single day and leave all the noise from yesterday behind me and be able to focus on being positive the rest of the day. And it grounds me as a father, as a husband, as a leader. And so I'll challenge you guys. I'll give you that gift. If I was with you guys in person or we even planned this, I probably would just spend the money and send you guys all a journal. But just look, invest in a $2 journal and a pen, and every morning really just think about, start your day for 30 days, try it. And I promise you, if you check in with yourself and you're honest, at the end of 30 days, you'll start to rewire your brain and you'll start to notice, how did I show up 30 days ago versus today? You'll see incremental progress in your mindset and how you show up.
And muted myself, which is always a good thing. So awkwardly talking when no one's there. So no, thanks, David. Those are really good takeaways. And the gratitude journal. There's actually an article. Again, I swear I didn't tell him to say this. There's an article that I wrote maybe a year ago that talks about that, just as a quick blog post, just like, hey guys. And it was like, I wake up like Eeyore. So how do I go from Eeyore to Tigger? And I have to do I journal every morning. I get the head trash out. Whatever's bothering me. What am I grateful for to reframe my mind? What would make today a success? How do I know that it's success? What's the metric for that? And then, and I forgot what the last piece is because I don't ever do it, but I think it's something like positive affirmations to yourself, or I don't know. I'm sure it was brilliant when I wrote it. Now I can't remember it and don't do it. So it's probably unnecessary. So that's most of it. Guys, thanks so much. I need to give them a quick break, David. We would have you on all day. So we do take a picture really quickly if we can. So if everybody will come off camera, we do that for posterity and we'll send that to you.
Sure.
So I don't know, Jared or Santiago, I know some people are traveling, some people may be at VA appointments and listening in, but I'll give you guys just a couple minutes to get set up on screens. We'll count down from 3, 2, 1. Awesome. You guys look great. All right, there we
go. Welcome to the virtual world. We're taking virtual shots of
Verizon. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording just because we keep that for